Welcome to the Wrestling with Goals podcast, the Conceive, Believe, and Achieve podcast with Madisyn Grof. Did I say that right?
Yes,
I
got
have
it.
I have a big problem with remembering names and well, let me tell you this too. I didn't tell you this before the see. We did a little conversation with Madisyn here prior to the recording. But Madisyn, I'll let you know this, and I'll let our viewers know this. I took a couple weeks off actually putting podcasts together because I was involved in a car accident, and I've been diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome. So that's another reason. If you see me looking away from the camera, it could be that too as well. But I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm hoping that we can have this conversation. It's going to be audio mostly here, and then it might take a while to actually get the video out. So that's. I just wanted to get that out real quick. I forgot about telling you that. So if you see me grab my hand like this, it might be just because I'm trying to get rid of a headache. Madisyn, sorry to bore you with that. Madisyn, and I'm saying that right?
Yes, you're saying it right.
Okay. All right. So you are a student at SFU, Simon
I
Fraser.
am.
Okay, and you just recently accomplished something big in the world of wrestling. Was it U20 or
U20. Yes,
okay?
U20 Pan Ams.
What about the Pan Ams?
Well, I mean, it was my first international tournament ever. It was great, a great experience. I had no idea how my competition was going to look like or how I was going to be up against them, how my skills uh, were compared to them, but it was a great experience. I had so much fun. I kind of just went just hour by hour, day by day. Didn't really focus on the result too much, kind of just focused on anything I can do to prepare myself for the day. It was really awesome. And all my teammates and coaches were really great as well.
And where did it take place?
Lima, Peru.
Lima, Peru.
Yeah.
And how many other countries were there?
There were 17 other countries there.
Okay, and who did you meet in the competition? What countries?
So my first match was against Honduras, and then I wrestled Ecuador, and then my finals match was against Mexico.
Okay, and how did they go? Each match. To start off with the first match, let's talk a little bit about that one.
Okay. Yeah, first match. Wasn't let me I'm trying to remember a few weeks ago. Yeah, it was against Honduras. I was a little nervous. It's usually first match, kind of get the jitters out of the way. But walked out there. My coach Frank Mensa, he tried to calm me down, make me laugh a little, so I felt more comfortable, which is great. And then I walked up on the stage, and I just kind of got in the zone, started wrestling. And then once I started getting the first few points, I was kind of like getting more confident, and I was more excited to wrestle. And yeah, it kind of just went by pretty fast. Actually, I think it was first round and it was over. I
Mhm.
ended up teching her, and then I gained a lot more confidence after that first match, and then I was a lot more ready for the second one.
For our viewers or our listeners that don't know what teching is, can you explain that to them?
Oh yeah, it's technical superiority. So essentially, it's if you have 10 points, 10 or more, I guess it would be like 10-0, and then the match would be over.
Mhm. That it used to be 12 when I was wrestling.
Oh really? Oh my
we, had to
gosh.
work, we had to work a little harder, just a little bit.
Yeah,
Great. So that was your first match. You got it
it
over.
was.
You're probably pretty thrilled about that.
Oh,
Uh,
so exciting.
so you're excited a little bit, and then the next opponent comes.
Was Ecuador.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Ecuador was a little bit tougher. I did end up also teching her as well, but it took a little bit longer. It went to the second round. She was a lot more aggressive compared to Honduras, and but I just kind of pushed the pace a little bit more, and I got a little more aggressive as well, which I really liked. And yeah, and then I ended up winning that one as well. And I got really excited because I ended up going to the finals, which I didn't expect to. Well, I didn't really know how I was gonna do, but it was pretty great.
You said you pushed the pace. What did you do to push the pace?
Push pace. I essentially just got more aggressive. I was more fast on my attacks. I was the one in control the whole time, even though she was more forceful. At some points, I just tried to match that with her and then go a little bit faster.
All right, let's go to the fast forward to the finals now, and you're in the finals. What's going through your head prior to, getting on that stage on that wrestling mat? What are you doing to prepare?
Prepare. So normally I wouldn't listen to music, but I kind of wanted to switch up my routine a little bit. So I ended up listening to some music, calming myself down because I was a little bit nervous. And then I started warming up again, getting some sweat going on. What else did I do? I drilled with some of my teammates, and then I was just game ready, focused, gold. That was set. My mind was set gold. That's all I wanted. I was really hungry for that gold because I was so close. I was so close. So yeah, it was that gold is all in my head.
Do you find like when you're wrestling, if you're too excited, it can affect your performance, or does that actually light a fire on your butt?
I would say yeah, it does affect my performance a little bit because I get pretty jittery, and so when I'm on the mat, it kind of shows. If I'm a little jittery, I'm kind of like all over the place. So usually I try and calm myself down. Like I'll get myself hyped up and excited, and then right when I'm walking out, I'm just more focused and calm and collected because I want to be very smooth and kind of relaxed. Let my body do its thing. So yeah, that's kind of how it was like walking out. I was a big smile on my face, talking to my coach, really just wanting to put all my effort. I was thinking this is my last match in Peru, just give it my all. And I wanted to show everything that I had for that last match.
And how did that match work out for you? Like, so what are the things when you slap hands with your opponent or shake hands and you start the match? What are the thoughts in your head?
Well, first thing is first contact. Always want to have first contact, and I want to be the most aggressive one out there. First contact, aggressive. I'm the one owning the mat. That's what I'm thinking. And then I'm also always listening to my coach because whatever he says, I usually normally follow because he's got all the eyes on the mat. You know, he can see everything. So I always take into account what he's saying.
You touched on what a lot of people kind of ignored, and sometimes coaches ignore, but the mental aspect of the game of wrestling. You said you wanted first contact, and I'm assuming that's because you wanted to show your opponent that you're in control, that you're going to be the one, dictating.
Exactly.
How important?
Yes.
That's your strategy going in, knowing that you are that individual. You're the tough son of a gun.
No, exactly. Yes. I'm showing them who's boss. It's me.
Awesome. Well, and you know what? I think that's overlooked. I will tell you, wrestling down in the U.S., there was. I think it was a little. It's different. When I was down there, it was. There were a lot of wrestlers were like, "Yeah, I'm going to beat you up and make you quit," and they just keep going, they keep going, they keep going. I had a practice partner at the Michigan Wrestling Club when I was there, a guy by the name of Steve Fraser. I don't know if you know him, but he's an Olympic gold medalist in 1984. But he just kicked the snot out of me, and he just kept on coming back and coming back and coming back. But what he did was he set the tone. He was like, you know what, you're going to give up. I'm just going to keep coming. I'm assuming that is the mindset. You are there in the finals. You want to produce.
No, that's exactly, yeah, setting the tone. You want them to match your pace. You don't want to match theirs.
So what are you doing to kind of set that up mentally and physically? Physically, I guess more so. What are you doing?
Do you mean like on the mat?
Yeah, on the mat.
Well, yes. So I would be, first contact, grabbing the wrists. That's usually my first take. Usually their lead leg, that wrist, I'll grab that one. And then I'd go from there. I'd grab their head, move them around. And then I'd go for a leg attack. Usually it would be a single leg because that's my go-to. And yeah, I'd go from there.
So hand fighting, that's what you're doing right off. You want to win that hand fighting battle.
Yes, exactly. Hand fighting. Always moving them around, keeping it super fast, switching it up.
Because when you're doing that, you're you're the aggressor, like you said, but you're also making them think one step behind you. They have to react to what you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
I try to teach that to our kids, you know, at a younger age. It's something that I've tried to harp on is like, you know, hand control, keep them moving, keep them moving. It's a hard tactic to actually get kids to buy into, especially the elementary and then the high school kids. Where did you start getting into that mindset?
Sorry, I kind
You
of
still
cut
there?
out a little.
Oh, did you hear what I asked or no? Hello?
No, I
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. So we just, yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Looks like it's going a little choppy right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I couldn't hear your question.
Oh, so basically I was asking like you know, the mindset of the wrestler, you know, the hand fighting and getting into good position and making the person, you know, your opponent, you know, feel that you're in control and then, you know, kind of having that dominance over your opponent. It's hard to teach young kids to understand that. And my question was, you know, where did you pick that up? Is it something that just came naturally? Is there something that one of your coaches said, hey, you need to do this?
No, that is actually kind of funny because before wrestling, I was a hockey player, and when I first joined wrestling, just through a friend, this was in grade 8. I ended up joining through Ivy Threffel. She's one of my good friends. She also wrestles at SFU. But my coach, he nicknamed me Buzzsaw because I had no technique whatsoever. But I would always be charging forward, always be having that pressure, and I think I kind of always had that sort of aggression and passion towards sport that I've always wanted to be the best and always get the points or win every battle. That was always a mindset, is win every battle, no matter what it was. If it was like a puck in the corner or a scramble on the mat, it was always like those small steps first. It's just winning those tiny battles. And I think I've kind of just grown up with that. And then it kind of, yeah, came with me with wrestling.
Hmm, awesome. So
Yeah.
the mindset will transfer from sport to sport.
Exactly, or even schooling as well, right? You
Mhm.
want to be the best, not on just on the mat, but like academically, like test wise as well.
Well, and I think that, I mean, you brought up a great point there. A lot of things, a lot of athletes, you know, the mental toughness, you know, I guess athletes get stereotyped as, you know, the dumb jocks or, you know, whatever, but that mental fortitude that athletes have often transfers over into other domains.
Oh
And
yes, yeah.
mhm. And you're talking about school. Let's talk about your school. Let's talk about Simon Fraser University. How did you
Okay.
get there? Are you a local, or are you somebody that actually was recruited to come to the big university there?
I was recruited by Justin, also Frank Abdu, or no, Justin Abdu, Frank Menza. Frank Menza is my club coach, but he also helps coach up at SFU as well. So I always kind of had SFU in the back of my mind. But Justin reached out to me, and I ended up going up there, just kind of look around, and then I ended up falling in love with the school. And also, I did want to stay local because I do live like an hour away,
Mhm.
which isn't too far. I do live on campus during the school season, well, school year, but it's not too far from home, and I want to stay closer to where my parents are because I'm a homebody. I like to
Mhm.
be at home with my parents, but
Yeah.
it's super fun up there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a couple names there. Actually, I'm going to try to get Frank on this podcast. I was given his contact stuff, and I know I'm supposed to reach out, but again, because of the concussion, I just kind of got
Right.
I got a little slow with that. But Justin Abdu, another name from the past that I've actually, so his era was the same era when my brother was wrestling. So I actually watched, you know, Justin and my brother have battles, and I actually watched Justin win a few of his national titles and go on to become an Olympian. So it's kind of cool to hear his name. You know, there's every now and then when I'm doing the podcast, I hear these names from the past. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, there's a little bit of a connection. How is it in the room with Justin? Like, he was one of those tenacious wrestlers,
Yeah.
and he was very technical. How is that in the SFU wrestling room? How is he as a coach?
Oh, he's a great coach. So usually we'll have two practices a day. Well, it'll be one mat practice and a lifting or cardio practice. But usually the afternoon practices will be doing a lot of live, and then the morning practices will be a lot of technique. So he'll show a bunch of different techniques, and then we'll work on that. And yeah, we'll usually have match days as well, which will be on the weekends. And he's always pushing the pace, and we'll always do like an overload to work extra hard. He always says that overloads will make champions. So yeah.
Nice. So I'm assuming he's taking what he learned from the past and bringing it onto you guys, which is pretty
Yes.
cool. Because he was a pretty tough kid on the mat. I'm sure he still is pretty tough on the mat.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Get in with you guys every now and then.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
a little bit sometimes.
yeah. Well, I know that my age is up there, so I'm not getting on the mat and battling out with university kids anymore. So
Yeah. Oh.
especially with a head like mine right now. Um, so SFU, the room there, you got some talented kids in that room. We spoke before we started recording about one of your teammates who's on the Olympic team.
Yes. So we have a few of them. We've got Justina DeSasio,
That's
Anna
right.
Godinez, Carla Godinez. We've
Mhm.
got a bunch, which
Yeah.
is it's great. I love practicing with Carla. And I mean, I usually will practice with Carla a few times. It's not really on the SFU. It's usually for Burnaby Mountain,
Mhm.
that club, which is during the summertime, which is great. She always keeps the pace super fast, which I really love.
Mhm.
And I love watching Anna wrestle some of the other girls. It's really cool to watch,
Mhm.
especially when they're in the room. They set the tone, and it makes everyone else in the room work so much harder. And it's a great feeling.
Mhm. It's, I mean, that's what you said. They set the tone, right? And then when you have
Yeah.
somebody at that level setting the tone, of course, Justina and Anna, they've been on the podcast. So for those of you that are listening to this right now, if you haven't heard their podcast, get them there. There's my shameless plug. Both Olympians there, and we're talking to a future Olympian. Hopefully, this is Madisyn, right? Goff,
Yeah.
and she is the current U20 Pan American champion. You're a provincial champion and a national champion as well, right?
I am. Yes.
Tell me
Yeah.
about the qualifying process for. I know we're jumping around here, but there's some things that I want the listeners to kind of know about the process. But tell me about the qualifying process for the Pan Ams.
So there is a tournament which is called the Olympic or what is it called? Well, it's essentially nationals is what it is. You have to win nationals to be able to compete at the Pan American Championships, which I actually did not know in my grade 11 year. I think it was. It was my first time trying for the Canadian team trials.
Mhm.
Um, and this was actually funny enough, more like essentially I would consider my first year wrestling because that was when it was a summer going into grade 11. I decided to join Coast Wrestling from Frank Mentz's club. And he taught me how to take a shot. I'd take, like, it would be a couple hours a day. He'd just say, I'd be shooting, reshooting, single legs, double legs. He taught me how to do my stance, which was great. And then that year, I tried out for the Canadian team trials, and I ended up losing to a teammate. It was very close. And then I realized that she got to go to Argentina for the Pan Am's, which I had no idea that was a thing. So then I was really ready for the next couple of years to try for this team. So essentially, it's a tournament which you have to be the best in Canada. And once you win that tournament, you end up going to the Pan American Championships.
So you got to qualify. It's not given to you. You got to earn that spot. You earned that spot.
Exactly. Yes.
You won our national tournament, and that's all the provinces come down and they show up with their best wrestlers, and then you have to kick their butts.
Exactly.
Basically,
Yeah.
in a nutshell. You touched on a little bit. You touched about just how you started wrestling. Can we go back to that and maybe talk about your first time you stepped, or the first time you were invited, and then maybe the first time you stepped on the mat?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say I somewhat started in grade 8. It was kind of on and off because I was a high level hockey player. I wanted to go to the NHL actually when I started hockey, but then I realized that was a very hard goal. So I got recruited actually to Frank Menza's club in grade 8, but I kind of passed that up because I was too hockey driven. So a couple years kind of went by, and I ended up joining his club in grade 11, which is when I really started to develop new skills and get to where I am now. So if it wasn't for Frank Mensa and his club, I don't think I would be where I am today. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So let me go back. Let's put you back in the wrestling room. The first time you step on that mat, put those shoes on. What are you thinking? Because you're all about hockey at this point.
Yeah. So I still have like some jewelry on. My nails aren't cut. I didn't even have wrestling shoes. Actually, he brought Daniel LePage's old wrestling shoes and gave them to me, and he told me to put them on. And it was just an individual practice. It was just me and him, and he basically said, "Okay, now get your stance." And I was like, I was a little confused. I didn't really understand, so I just kind of stood there, and he was like, "You don't have a stance?" I was like, "No," and he's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna make you a left foot lead." So I was like, okay. So now I wrestle left foot lead, which I'm normally right handed and right side dominant, but I wrestle left side, which
Mhm.
is kind of interesting. And yeah, so he essentially he was like, okay, for next practice, no jewelry, cut your nails, and hair tied up super high so it doesn't get in your face. So it was definitely an adjustment compared to hockey.
Hockey, you got to keep your nails and your jewelry on.
Yeah, jewelry on, exactly.
So you got your first practice under your belt, and you go home. And what does mom and dad think of you wrestling? Because I will tell you, like I'm from back in the day when girls wrestling didn't exist. There was girls at our high school that wanted to wrestle, but the teachers were like, "That ain't happening. You can't wrestle." Wrestling's progressed, thank goodness. But what was the mindset of your mom and dad when you came home and said, "Hey, I'm going to wrestle"?
Yeah. They actually didn't know too much about wrestling either, so they were kind of intrigued a little bit. They're a little bit on edge because, well, hockey's a lot different, right? So like the aggression of the sport, still like aggressive, you still a little bit of contact, but nothing compared to wrestling. They're excited for me, and they knew that this was an exciting experience, especially because it was new to the family, new to me. And then it was more of a positive experience because hockey sometimes it was a little bit more negative just because of the politics and all of that drama. But there didn't seem to be any politics in wrestling, and there still hasn't been compared to hockey. So it's been a really positive experience.
I was going to tell you there is politics.
Yeah,
We'll get into that, but probably not to the extent of hockey. Hockey's pretty big.
it's
Um,
pretty harsh.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's a tough sport. It's big here in Canada, as everybody knows. And what I loved that you did say was that you had this mentality that you wanted to be in the NHL. Like you had that goal. Uh,
Yes.
Not a lot of kids, not a lot of girls are going to be saying, "I want to go to the NHL," right? But you said the bar high, which I'm assuming you are continuously doing.
Always. Yes. I've always been very driven to be the best at something. It could have been like I always want to be the best at hockey, and now I want to be the best in wrestling. And I've always loved like contact sports. Like I also used to play lacrosse, so this was kind of in my alley a little bit. And then now, like I've fallen in love with wrestling. I love the aggression. I love pushing people around, slamming them to the ground. No, it's great.
Sounds like you got a UFC future in the making. A lot of
Oh,
our,
you never know.
and we have a few UFC fighters that here from Canada. I know we have one here in Ontario. She's making some waves, and of course, Anna's sister's in the UFC as well.
Could be.
So I mean, it could be, and I'm sure your parents don't like me saying that. Maybe they no. Well, this is the farthest we're going to go. We don't want our kid punched in the head for money, so let's not go there. I don't think any parent wants that to happen.
No.
Uh, Man, well, yeah, the aggression. Where does that come from? Is that a trait that you was passed on through genetics, or is it something that you developed yourself?
I would say it probably passed on. My dad, he's definitely like he used to be a hockey player as well, and he was a high level hockey player, and he's always been like not like an aggressive athlete, very driven. Everything he's done always has to be perfect, and it's always got to be done. Yeah, done very well. So I think that's been passed on from my dad to me, and I find it a great trait. I love I'm not saying I love being aggressive, but I mean like
Well, there's nothing
Dreams.
wrong with being aggressive in a controlled environment, right? That's
Exactly.
the key. And I mean, we are as Canadians, we apologize a lot for being, being that way. But I think that if you're in that specific domain, you can be aggressive as aggressive as you want, because it does help you. Like you're saying in your match, the first thing you wanted to do is become that aggressive and that dominant individual. When you do that, it obviously affects the person you're wrestling with. If you're not aggressive, you're going to be the one that's going to have that other person aggressive on you. So you got to match those styles too, I think.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, always want to be the first person to be like aggressive because if not, you're the one getting pushed around and no one likes being pushed around.
Yeah. So when you got out of high school, you recruited to go to SFU.
Yes.
Um, was it a different atmosphere, as in, I guess, toughness? Did you struggle at first? Did you fit right in?
I would say the first couple, well, not so much a struggle because before going to university I would train up at SFU sometimes, so I did know a few of the girls. I mean, of course it's a little bit nerve wracking the first few weeks because you don't know everyone, but they were super welcoming, and they set the tone on the mat, which was great. I loved that. And they're also like, if you had a problem with anything, you could always go to them
Mhm.
and they'd help you out. And there's a bunch of coaching staff that could help with you as well. Not just the wrestling coaches, but also some of the like the athletic coaches like that helped like not mental coaches. There's just a bunch of different like outlets that you could go to if you had a problem with anything.
Mhm. Oh, and let's talk about mental health. A little bit about mental health in sports and in well, going to school, because it's a tough thing for some kids. I'm assuming you're pretty young. You're U20, so you're young. You go away from home for the first time, and then you're getting beat up every single day.
Yeah.
Can be taxing. So I guess having those individuals in your life to help you out. Come as a benefit, I think, to some, like, because it can be
Oh,
pretty.
it's super tough.
Mhm.
I would say one of the best things that's helped me is journaling. Actually,
Mhm.
I learned from a coach journaling how I'm feeling, and also just like what I can control and what other people like, and not focus on what I can't control essentially, and write that down. And I do that actually before tournaments or when I'm on the plane. I'm always journaling how I feel, the process, just enjoying the process, enjoying just every day, because again, it's just an opportunity, and I don't want it to go by super fast and not realize that I didn't enjoy myself. So I'm always writing it down, just taking a breath, enjoying the moment, and just taking the positive out of everything, because you only live once, and it's not like I might not be going back to Peru, right? So just writing everything down and how I felt in that moment really makes up for it. It makes me feel better as well, especially if I am in a negative situation. I'll write how I'm feeling if I'm negative. Like I'm saying, like I lost a match or whatnot. I'll write it down how I feel all angry, and then I'll wait a couple hours and I'll rewrite that experience, but in a more positive way, and take all of the positive things I've said, and then forget about all the negative things that I wrote down, and then just write the positive, and it kind of helps me.
So reframing everything from negative to positive.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if we stay and dwell on the negatives, and I think that's great to hear that your coaches started that process for you. But if we dwell on negatives, I mean, it's in life, just not just athletics. We don't get anywhere. right?
Exactly. Yeah.